Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. This is Just Give Me a Happy Holiday, whatever that looks like. And I landed on this one because I'm looking around me during the holiday season and I'm listening to the conversations that are happening around me and I'm listening to my own self. And there are three blaring themes that keep showing up in those conversations. And I realize that a lot of us feel like we should be happy around the holidays and we should be experiencing joy around the holidays, but the circumstances and the situations that we're in and the amount of pressure that's being placed on us is causing us to feel like this season isn't as joyful as it should be. And then we feel more guilt and more pressure because we know that we should be celebrating because it is the celebration of Jesus's birthday. And that's such a glorious time. And it was a great gift to be given as followers of Christ. And so when we start to really look at all of the things that are overwhelming us, then we feel guilty because that's the thing that we should be celebrating. But we're actually just inundated with all of these things on our to-do list. And I just want to speak to those three areas and what we can do instead. And this isn't another, I know you got a lot going on, but here's what you should be doing type of conversation. This is more us understanding that it's okay and a lot of other people are feeling that same way, and to give yourself a little bit of grace. So the first theme that I hear often is that people are burned out and overwhelmed by the pressure of the holiday season. There are cookies to be made and trees to be decorated and gifts to be bought and wrapped, and there are a million activities that you can choose from to take your children to or to be a part of. And all of it feels like there's just so much going on. And sometimes we just want to sit in front of the tree that we've decorated and enjoy the fruits of our labor and just rest and be still. And a holiday season like the one that we're resting in, which is filled with consumerism and filled with comparison, will tell us that we have to be doing something and that there's more that we could be doing. And what I want to say to all of those hearts, including myself, is that you're doing too much. We're just doing too much. And the reality of that situation is that we see what everyone else is doing and we see a culmination of all the things that everyone else is doing. So we're scrolling our feeds and we see, thousands of activities that people are taking their children to and the pictures that they have and all of the joy that they're experiencing, and we tell ourselves, well, I need to be doing that too. And so then our list of 3 or 4 things that are important to us become a list of the hundreds of things that we're seeing everyone else doing, and that can get so overwhelming, and it's because we're doing too much. And what we truly need to tell ourselves is we get to curate this experience. We get to decide what's important. We get to determine what traditions we want to keep from our childhood and which ones we want our kids to pass down to their grandkids and which ones we actually want to participate in. And if this holiday season you don't want to participate in any of them, you don't want to do the ugly Christmas sweater competition at work, and maybe you don't want to go for the holiday drinks with your friends, and perhaps you don't want to bake 7 different kinds of cookies this year. You get to curate that experience because you're the one who's creating the holiday magic here. And so when we get in our heads and when we say, well, all of this has to happen, we really need to ask ourselves why. Why is all of this happening? Is it happening because I need to prove to myself that I did a good job at creating the Christmas magic? Because if that's the case, then you're going to get a lot of kids whining when they have to go somewhere, complaining that they have to do the thing, and a lot less of you getting to have this great experience that you feel like is going to happen with them because of all of the things that you've pulled from your social media feed to do with your kids. And when I want to know what's going to land well, and when I want to know what's going to be a positive experience for my kids, I ask them, And this year I've gotten really good at the asking because I don't want to overdo it just for the sake of overdoing it. I don't want to put extra things on my to-do list just because I saw someone else do it on their social media feed if it doesn't speak to my kids, because creating the Christmas experience is for them, but it's also for me to experience joy. And if those are my two objectives here while also celebrating the birth of Jesus, then anything that is beyond those things is unnecessary. So I ask them, hey, do you guys still want to make the cookies this year? I'm still going to make some cookies, even if they were to say no. But they say yes, and then I say, okay, which cookies do you want to make? Because normally we make all 7 of these, and we don't have to make all 7, and we're running out of time. So then they say, okay, well, we definitely want to decorate the sugar cookies, and we definitely want to make these 2 that are our favorites. So my 7 went to 3 really quickly, which takes me out of the feeling of being overwhelmed, and I have to make all of these cookies, and I have to do all of these things. When we went to go pick up the tree, my oldest didn't want to go. That's okay. He said, I'll decorate the tree, but I don't really want to go to the experience. So I took the 2 littles and we went, and I call them 2 littles, but the middle one is 14. But we went to the tree farm, we picked out our tree. That experience lasted all of 15 minutes. We got some hot chocolate and we got back in the car because it was freezing that day. And if I'm looking at other people's social media pictures, I might say, oh my gosh, these guys spent an entire day going to search out the tree, cutting down the tree, doing all of these other things. And if that's you, there's no shame in that either. But if you don't have the bandwidth and you're starting to feel burned out and overwhelmed by the holidays, there are things that your kids don't want to be doing that you're forcing them to do. And if you're only forcing them to do it for the sake of posting on social media, then who is it actually for? And so I ask them, and I ask them every single time. And if it's something that they don't want to do, but it still brings me joy, then I'm going to do it anyway. So we decorated the tree because that's a tradition that we're going to continue, and I want them to continue with their own children. And we're going to make the cookies because the cookies are something that I want to continue. And I did buy the presents, but I didn't go all crazy this year because it's not necessary. It's not really what this time is for. And if I'm truly celebrating it for what it's for, then it shouldn't be a time where I'm feeling overwhelmed and a lack of joy. The other thing that I hear often is people discussing how the holidays bring them a lot of anxiety because in all of the get-togethers, they have to be around unsafe people. And while I know that experience all too well, I get what it's like to know that you're going to be in a room with people who are going to be unkind or judgy or say some really horrible things to you. I also know that there is beauty in the boundaries that you set. And so you can go into those environments with people that you don't deem necessarily safe, and you can know that what you can lean on is the boundaries that you've set, and communicating those boundaries is part of setting those boundaries. So oftentimes if I know I'm going to go into an environment where there might be some unsafe conversations and unsafe people in that environment, I don't have an expectation that their job is to make me safe, but I will sit with myself for a bit and say, okay, you're about to go into this environment. What are some things that you're going to hold on to? What are some things that you know about yourself that you can adjust if you're in this space? And then I think about the boundaries that I'm going to set. So if someone starts gossiping about another family member, I know that I can say, I'm not really interested in having this conversation to gossip about someone else when they're not here to defend themselves, and I can walk away from that conversation. And if I'm met with some adversity because I'm walking away from that conversation, I can say, hey, you already know that I'm not interested in gossiping. So if that's a conversation that you're going to have, that's a conversation that I'm not going to take part in. And I think at this point, because I've set the boundary, people know that that's the thing. But if you're new to this and you haven't set the boundary, it's really important for you to say it, name it, and say what's going to happen as a result of it. Say it to yourself, name it to the other person, and then let them know clearly and explicitly what's going to happen as a result of it. You're not trying to create consequences for them or make them pay for what you deem to be their ugly behavior. But what you are doing is trying to keep the relationship. So in order to keep the relationship, or in order to keep the peace in that environment for yourself, you're going to have to tell them what you're going to do as a result of it. And that allows you to be able to go in this space with unsafe people but not feel like you're going to be attacked or you aren't safe going into that environment. And one of the ways that I make that happen is by prepping myself with prayer. I really pray about what I need him to do for me, what I need him to be strong in, because it's not my area of strength, and just getting myself armored up so that when I go into the environment, one, it doesn't affect me in a negative space because I have him fighting for me in that space. But two, I'm not in a space where I already feel resentful and I'm not being ugly to other people as a result of that resentment. So sitting in that prayer and really getting prayed up for those experiences. Should we have to do that? No. But we know that there are people who we do have to experience who aren't the kindest and aren't exactly like us. And so in an effort to be in that space and still be able to function in that space, we have to get ourselves stronger and sturdier in the Word of God and in his presence, and then also get in that space and stand up for ourselves and tell people what we're willing to accept and what we're not. And lastly, and probably most impactfully, I hear a lot of people talking about the sadness that they experience during this time because of their circumstances, whether it be because they're not able to support what consumerism has said that this is supposed to be like, or whether it's because a loved one isn't here for this holiday season. And I know that one impacts me because even though I didn't see my friend Shelly on Christmas Day, I still know that it was one of her favorites. And so this holiday season is pretty brutal, knowing that she would have been, here creating all of the magic too, and we would have talked about, all of the things that we had to get done. And so there is some sadness around a loved one missing. And also sometimes we just feel the burden of guilt that we don't feel the joy that maybe others are portraying or that we feel like we should be feeling around this season. And to that, I would say, we never know what anyone else is experiencing. And I don't know what any of you are experiencing. But for everyone who does feel that way during this time, let yourself feel the feelings. Don't guilt yourself for this not being the most wonderful time of the year for you. Whether it's for any of the reasons that I named or others outside of the ones that I named, maybe this just isn't a season that makes you feel all the joy. And that's okay. It's okay to not want to partake in all of these activities. It's okay to feel like you just want to be in your house and, listen to the Christmas music and watch the movies by yourself. And as I always am an advocate of, it's really nice to experience your mortgage because that's a payment that you pay every single month. And so sometimes it's cool to sit at home in your space and not have to go out and do all the things. Don't let yourself get isolated to the point where no one can get in and you're not talking to anybody. But give yourself the grace to not want to be out and about and experiencing all the things. Give yourself the time to be able to get still with God so he can start to heal your heart. So that even if you aren't on this healing journey or healed in those areas, that God can stand in the gap for you, that he can be your comfort and your strength during this time that doesn't feel as joyful for you as it does for the other people around you. And I also urge you to have that conversation with the people around you, because if you're experiencing a lack of joy, but yet you're pretending with a smile on your face like this is the greatest time, just like it's always been, I would probably bet that the people around you are doing that as well. So sometimes being vulnerable and opening up to people is a gateway for them to be able to share their true experience too. And you'll find out that you're not as alone as you thought you were during this time. And so I just want to encourage anyone who's listening that happy holidays may not always be happy, but we can find our own joy inside of that experience, even if that joy comes from the true meaning of the season, which is celebrating the fact that God sent Jesus here to die for our sins later. And even if it's the fact that we know that this birthday is a way for us to get to experience eternal life, and it's the reason that we get to see our loved ones again in heaven, and it's the reason for the whole season together. And so if your season isn't as happy as you had hoped it would be, I hope that you still get to experience bouts of joy inside of it, because Though I'm not making all 7 of the Christmas cookies, there's still joy in watching my kids do the 3 and experience the traditions that I experienced when I was a kid. And even if we aren't doing all of the activities that everyone else is doing in their social media feeds, we're still spending time together and we're still doing the things that bring us joy inside of this holiday season. And we don't have to add those extra things to our to-do list. And even if everyone around me only gets one gift, the gift of being in this family is a larger gift than anything that I could put a price tag on. And so it's really sitting with yourself and responding to this season in such a way that you don't let the outside circumstances steal every piece of joy, because there's still some joy in it. And so today and all through this season, I just give you all the love and all of the grace and just all of the hugs from over here, because I know what it feels like to be in that space. And I also really want you to experience some sort of joy, even if it's not the joy that you're accustomed to. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channels, go to my pages, follow me there, and share this video with somebody who may need it. Also, just a teaser for next week. Next week's pod is going to be with someone who actually has experienced loss during this season, and exponential loss in her life, and she is just a beacon of hope for what can happen if you turn that pain over to God. So if that's you and you need somebody to lean on, this next podcast next week is going to be that place to get that information. And I share all of her links so you can access her after the podcast information is over. So make sure to tune in. Thank you all for being faithful listeners, and I appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you again next week.